Hey, welcome back. So you're thinking about getting a 2K monitor, and you've already spent 4 hours watching reviews, reading spec sheets, and somehow ended up more confused than when you started. I get it. The monitor market in 2026 is honestly a lot. You've got IPS, VA, QD-OLED, mini LED, brands throwing numbers at you like refresh rates are a competition to see who can count highest. So here's what this video is. A no-fluff breakdown of the best 2K monitors you can actually buy right now, split into 3 tiers: budget, mid-range, and high-end. I'll tell you what's worth your money, what's not, and which one makes the most sense for you specifically. Let's get into it. Quick note before we get to the picks. When I say 2K, I mean 1440p, that's 2560 by 1440 resolution. Some people use 2K to mean different things, which is mildly annoying, but here we're talking QHD. And here's why it's still the best resolution for most people in 2026. 4K is gorgeous, but it'll eat your GPU alive unless you're spending big on a graphics card. 1080p is starting to show its age, especially on 27-inch screens where you can see individual pixels if you look closely enough. 1440p hits that middle ground perfectly. Sharp enough to look great on a 27-inch display, light enough that a mid-range GPU like an RTX 4060 or RX 7600 can push solid frame rates without breaking a sweat. Plus, prices have come down significantly. The value you're getting at 1440p right now is genuinely great. Okay, enough context, let's talk monitors. Real quick, here are the specs that actually matter. Panel type, IPS, gives you great colors and wide viewing angles. VA gives you deeper contrast, better for dark rooms. OLED is in a league of its own for contrast and response time, but costs more and has burn-in risk if you're not careful. Most budget options will be IPS or VA, which is totally fine. Refresh rate, for gaming, 144Hz is the minimum you should care about in 2026. 165Hz, 180Hz is common in the mid-range. 240Hz and above is for competitive gamers who play shooters and want every possible edge. Response time, anything at or below 4 ms GTG, is fine for gaming. OLED panels typically hit 0.03 ms, which is basically instant. Adaptive sync, FreeSync or G-Sync compatible. It syncs your monitor's refresh rate to your GPU's frame output. Eliminate screen tearing. You want this. Almost every decent monitor has it now. Size, 27 inches is the sweet spot for 1440p. Big enough to appreciate the resolution. Small enough that you're not constantly moving your head. Alright, picks time. If you're keeping it under $200 and you game competitively, the LG 27GP850B is probably the safest pick on this list. It's a 27-inch nano IPS panel with a 165Hz refresh rate, overclockable to 180Hz. Solid response times around 4 ms, and about 98% DCI-P3 color coverage. Translation: games look punchy, motion looks sharp, and nothing feels sluggish. The HDR on this thing is fine. It's HDR 400, which honestly looks better on paper than in practice. Don't buy this monitor for HDR. Buy it because it's fast, accurate, and reliable. LG has been making great IPS panels for years, and this one benefits from all of that. The stand is also actually adjustable, which budget monitors often skip on. Small thing. You'll appreciate it 6 months in when your neck starts complaining. The main trade-off? Contrast isn't great. Like most IPS panels, dark scenes look a bit washed out. If you're gaming in a bright room, you won't notice. If you're playing atmospheric horror games with the lights off, maybe bump up to the next tier. If you care more about image quality and cinematic gaming than pure competitive performance, look at the ASUS Q27G3 Examen instead. This is a VA panel with a mini LED backlight, HDR 1000 certification with 336 local dimming zones and contrast ratios that would make the LG blush. For single-player games, open worlds, RPGs, anything cinematic, the depth of image here is genuinely impressive for the price. The catch: VA panels can smear slightly in very fast dark-to-dark transitions. For competitive shooters, you might notice it. For everything else, probably not. This is the tier where things get genuinely exciting. You're starting to see OLED technology at prices that don't require selling a kidney. The MSI Mag 271QP is a 27-inch QD-OLED at 1440p, with a 240Hz refresh rate and a 0.03 ms response time. Yes, 0.03 ms. That's not a typo. That's basically the speed of thought, or at least much faster than your actual reaction time in games. So the monitor is never the bottleneck. QD-OLED gives you perfect blacks, insanely vibrant colors, and near-instant pixel response. It's the kind of panel where you boot up a visually rich game and just sit there for a second. Because it looks really good. The colors are wide, close to 99% DCI-P3, which also makes this a solid pick if you do any creative work on the side. Photo editing, video work, design. The accuracy is there. Burn-in is the concern people always raise with OLED, and it's worth acknowledging. If you leave a static image, like a desktop wallpaper or a game HUD, on screen for hundreds of hours without any change, burn-in can happen over time. Modern OLEDs have gotten much better at mitigating this with pixel shifting tech and automatic brightness adjustments. For most users in 2026, it's not a practical day-to-day concern. But if you use a monitor 14 hours a day with the same layout, it's worth knowing. For the price, the MSI Mag 271 QP is hard to beat. Not ready to go OLED? The Gigabyte M27Q is a solid IPS option with a 170Hz refresh rate, good color accuracy, and excellent build quality for around $220. It won't blow your mind, but it won't disappoint you either. Reliable workhorse energy. Alright, you've decided you want the good stuff. Respect. The ASUS ROG Swift OLED PG27 AQWP is ASUS's latest take on the tandem OLED panel at 1440p, and it's one of the best monitors available right now at this resolution. You get up to 540Hz at 1440p, 540Hz. At this point, I'm not sure if we're gaming or predicting the future, but here we are. More practically, the panel uses an RGB stripe OLED layout, which gives you noticeably sharper text than older QD-OLED panels. If you've ever thought OLED monitors look slightly soft for Windows desktop use, this addresses that directly. Text is crisp, productivity is comfortable, and gaming is exceptional. It's also got a Near proximity sensor. When you walk away from your desk, the monitor detects your absence and dims itself to prevent burn-in. Little feature, big peace of mind. Yes, $500 to $600 is a lot for a monitor, but if you're spending serious money on a GPU and CPU, the display is genuinely one of the most impactful upgrades you can make to your experience. You see the monitor every single second you're at your desk. The ViewSonic VX2738 launched at CES 2026 and turned some heads. It's a 27-inch QD-OLED at 1440p with a 240Hz refresh rate and 0.03 ms response time, similar to the MSI pick, but with HDMI 2.1, G-Sync and FreeSync support, and an esports mode that scales the image down to a 24.5-inch virtual screen for competitive players who prefer that smaller field of view. Niche feature, but competitive FPS players specifically will know exactly why that's interesting. Priced around $500, it's a genuine competitor to the ASUS at a slightly lower cost. Okay, let me make this simple. If you're on a budget and you game competitively, LG 27GP850B, fast, reliable, accurate, does the job really well. If you're on a budget and you play cinematic single-player games, AOC Q27G3XMNN, the contrast in HDR at this price is genuinely impressive. If you want the best bang for your buck and you're ready to try OLED, MSI Mag 271 QP. This is probably the pick I'd point most people toward. The step up in image quality from a regular IPS panel is noticeable the moment you power it on. If you want the best 1440p experience money can buy right now, ASUS ROG Swift OLED PG27 AQWP. It's not cheap, but it earns it. One last thing, whatever you pick, make sure your GPU can actually keep up. There's no point in a 240Hz monitor if your graphics card tops out at 80 FPS in the games you play. Match your hardware, the whole chain matters. That's the breakdown. 2K monitors in 2026 are genuinely great across every price point. The budget options today would have been mid-range picks 2 years ago, and the high-end stuff is legitimately jaw-dropping. If this helped you narrow it down, a like goes a long way. It tells YouTube the video is worth recommending, and I appreciate it. Drop your questions in the comments. Whether it's about a specific monitor, your GPU pairing, or whether you should go 2K versus 4K, I read everything. See you in the next one.